I'm Kim, and welcome to Esotouric's podcast, You Can't Eat the Sunshine, for the week of April 20th, 2015. Join us this week as we talk with George Redfox, president of the Downey Conservancy, about the white-knuckle preservation saga of Downey's legendary Harvey's Broiler, a core site in Southern California's cruising culture, illegally demolished and rebuilt to original plans as a Bob's Big Boy. We'll also visit with Ken Pratt, director of Union Station Property Management, to learn about a typical day in his life managing the beloved and iconic downtown Los Angeles transportation hub. So stay tuned.
You can't eat the sunshine, but you can make a beeline for the best of the coastline. La 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 la. Skid Row, Solano Canyon, the Doria, and Pico Union, the long-lost neighborhood called Hermina, between South Pass and Highland Park, Grand Central Park. It is divine. You can't eat the sunshine, but it's a gold mine of fabulous oddities like Bruce Shears, Dairy, Angela Savvy, Bob's Big Boy, in Downey Forest Lawn Cemetery. You can't eat the sunshine, but make a beeline for la la la. You can't eat the sunshine.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for listening to our podcast, You Can't Eat the Sunshine, for the week of April 20th, 2015. This week, we have two guests. As always, our first guest is George Redfox. He's president of the Downey Conservancy, a member of Downey Historical Society, and he will be talking to us about the great former Harvey's Broiler, which has been reincarnated as Bob's Big Boy in Downey. It is a wonderful, heartening preservation tale. On the theme of heartening preservation tales, we have an interview with Ken Pratt. Ken Pratt is Director of Union Station Property Management. That is a very long-winded title, which the Metropolitan Transit Authority has given him, and an easier thing to think of is just Ken is in charge of Union Station, and he's a really good guy. He's raising the bar for everything there. They're doing a tremendous job refurbishing the station, and we're so blessed to count him as a friend and a colleague. Okay, and he's going to give us a great interview about a day in his life, which, as you can imagine, being in charge of Union Station, is an exhausting, exhilarating tale filled with really good food, really good entrepreneurs putting together some really good food in restaurants and merchants. So, Kim, why don't we get started? You can tell us about the Pishka.
Well, I'm happy to tell you about the Pishka. That is the digital tip jar. It's sort of a conceptual construct, and if you like this show and you'd like to put something in the digital tip jar, you just go to the podcast page and click a link and you can make a donation. We're always so grateful for the support of listeners. It helps us to fund our travels all over the Southland, looking for fascinating people to talk to, for you to listen to. It's never obligatory, but it's always appreciated, and we're grateful for your support.
Great. Okay, Kim, let's get started with the closely watched trains list. Let's stir it up. Let's pick the last one from the list. CIM's Hollywood Sunset Gordon Tower.
Oh, it sounds like...
Yeah, that's the bell. The round one has started, Kim. You're in the ring.
Okay, well... All right. It was a real preservation nightmare. There you had this thing that everyone called the old spaghetti factory, which was a really easy way to dismiss the fact that it's this really magnificent old sort of Renaissance revival building that's had many lives. It was a radio station. It was an actor's studio. It was it a car showroom at one point? It was just a really cool old piece of 1920s LA. And Sim Group, who are these extremely wealthy developers with a terrible track record when it comes to preservation, not quite Jeff Palmer level, but pretty bad. They purchased the lot and from another developer and made a deal that in exchange for not having to put in quite a lot of parking, because, it's transit friendly over there off Hollywood Boulevard, that they would need to retain and preserve the original building, the facade. And they made a decision during the development of the project and during the construction that, this old building is just such a wreck. We're going to knock it down and rebuild it. And some lazy person or some crook down at Building and Safety said this was okay. They knocked it down. Hollywood preservationists flipped out. There are photographs of this terrible site. And then they just went ahead and built this tower. And naturally, people who care about preservation in the city began rallying their forces. There was a lawsuit, and ultimately the decision has been made by a judge that Sim Group had no right to move forward, that they had entitlements, they had an obligation to preserve that building, and that the judge decided to teach them a lesson. Now, this is where it gets really sad and tragic, because people have been moving into the building. There are currently somewhere between 50 and 100 people living in the Sunset Gordon Tower.
Don't forget the Airbnb franchise.
Yeah, that's illegal. They're also operating it illegally. When they figured out that they couldn't continue to rent and fill the units, they created some Airbnb hosts. That's in quotes because it's just Sim Group's management company. So the city filed a cease and desist order and put that up on the building and said no longer can you operate this as a hotel. Obviously, that's stressful for the tenants. And the tenants got a very rude awakening. People who moved in as recently as September or even I guess the earliest tenants came in September, right before the lawsuit came down, and people have been moving in ever since. No one was told anything about this possible pending move-out order, and they all got sheriff's department notices under their door saying
No. The Building and Safety put notices.
No, it was the sheriff's department.
Okay,
I thought so.
No, Building and Safe. No, they haven't been ordered to evict yet.
Okay,
that's coming up.
I apologize.
What's happened is Building and Safety, because they're about a week away from sending the sheriffs to evict everyone. They just have it's an algorithm. You get ready to evict people. Building and Safety puts out a notice about a week before
right.
anything happens with the sheriff's department. So they've gotten these notices from Building and Safety.
Okay, I apologize. I don't live there. I'm not totally on top of the entire process. But people have figured out, oh my goodness, we may have to move out before the end of the month. They're sort of getting anxious, as you would expect. A bunch of them gathered in a studio apartment to have a discussion about this, and they invited the press. And apparently, when someone went downstairs to ask management some questions, the police were called. So it's just really stressful and awful. The people living in this building are not low-income tenants. They can certainly go and find somewhere else to live. But it's just in such poor taste for this
Kim, I'm going to interrupt you. You know, coming up with first and last month anywhere is a non-trivial endeavor.
Well, sure.
Sure.
Maybe instead of living in a $2,700 a month apartment, they'll move into a $900 a month studio for a while. It sucks. It's gross. And if they hadn't knocked down the historic building that they got entitlements in order to preserve, none of this would be happening. I hope it's a wake-up call for developers who pick up historic properties with no intention of actually maintaining and preserving them and paying this kind of creepy lip service to cities. And I hope it's a wake-up call to city agencies, too, that you can't just greenlight stuff that isn't part of the original development plan. It's a real pain in the neck for everyone involved. It's very ugly to see. And the end result is they're going to have this big white elephant. I don't know what they're possibly going to do. And whatever they end up doing, the original historical building that was supposed to be preserved is gone.
Right, and what you haven't mentioned, and that's really adds another layer of ambiguity, is that there was a hearing. Our favorite phrase in the whole world is a building and safety hearing. That's our favorite phrase because these are highly ambiguous scenarios. Yes, so there's a hearing scheduled for next week, and it's possible that Sim Group could get an extension, which would mean the people might get another month or two to get it together. So before they have to leave. So we'll keep you posted. It's very sad, but I want to stop being negative for a minute, and I want to start being positive again. And I want to talk about my favorite film, 500 Days of Summer.
You know, you actually don't like that film at all. You had to watch it because everyone was getting on our bus and saying, "Have you seen that movie about downtown architecture? It's so cute." And what was the favorite architect of the?
Well, I fast forwarded the film. I figured out how to fast forward with audio on, so I was actually able to
Listen to the chipmunks?
I was actually able to listen to it while proofreading a tour flyer for the next day. And then we got to the section where they talk about Walker and Eisner, my favorite architects, and I had to watch it.
Yeah, so Walker and Eisen are really important Art Deco architects in Los Angeles. We love Walker and Eisen. We often give tours pointing out Walker and Eisen buildings. We've even given free walking tours of Walker and Eisen structures. Walker and Eisner don't exist. I thought, how could a whole script be written this way? And of course it turned out the film was not supposed to be shot in downtown Los Angeles. It was supposed to be shot up in Berkeley, and Bernard Maybeck.
It was supposed to be shot in San Francisco with the Palace of Fine Arts as the centerpiece, as the scene. Okay. Where the Walker and Eisner scene is, it's supposed to be Bernard Maybeck.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. It just goes to show you that people in Hollywood don't pay attention. But the reason you brought this up...
It's still my favorite film.
So there's this bench in the film, and the couple... Honey, I sort of watched you watching it, so I know less about this film than you do, but I've seen the photograph of the couple.
They're in love, like you and I.
Yeah, I don't think they are. They're like sitting on this bench up at Angel's Knoll, which is this completely ramshackle joke of a non-park that's basically an undeveloped piece of real estate that was supposed to be a skyscraper. Angel's Knoll.
It's next to Angel's Flight on Hill Street between 3rd and 4th.
Which is also completely inaccessible. So after the community redevelopment agencies were disbanded by our governor, Angel's Knoll, the land reverted to the successor agency, and they began talking about marketing it as a high-rise development again. And stakeholders, my favorite word. Stakeholders are people who have more powerful Rolodexes than you do. And
they have lobbyists.
They have lobbyists. They can call the chief of police or one of their direct underlings and get stuff done that maybe isn't really totally socially just, but it makes landlords happy. And in this case, what happened is there were some pretty scuzzy-looking people hanging out at the bottom of Angel's Knoll. And Angel's Knoll is a tall piece of land with mature trees and lawns, and that iconic bench from that silly movie up at the top. And it's some of the only real grassy open space in downtown. It's a nice place to have lunch. It's really quite lovely. And these stakeholders managed to get the whole thing fenced off. And ever since then, it's just been sitting, filled with weeds. There was actually a wildfire there about a week ago, and I learned of this when our favorite cars on Angel's Flight, which have a Twitter account, tweeted that they had not been burned in the wildfire, and the wildfire had been put out. It's a tragic thing. It's probably going to stay that way for a long, long time. The city really doesn't have the vision. The city owns it, essentially. The city doesn't have the vision to step in and maintain this space in any way, so it's just chain link, wildfires, and sadness, and you can't go sit on that bench with your sweetheart.
I read the Wikipedia page for the film Summers, the name of the girl in the relationship. I just did that before we did this podcast. Kim, I want to keep being positive.
So do I.
Okay, I guess that wasn't really a positive watch train, because it's really sad that Angel's Knoll is closed. But I actually do want to call out, I want to call out Bobby Green. Bobby Green is the entrepreneur who, he's a car guy, and he owns bars, and he's currently he's just finished restoring the Idle Hour, which you and I just drove past last week on our way back from our certified public accountant for our taxes. And if we hadn't been so behind schedule, I would have stopped. But we did see it, and I wanted to. I found this article. I know it's a couple weeks dated, but it's a nice little write-up about Bobby Brown and the great work he's... Bobby Green. Oh, Bobby Brown's a good singer, yeah. Bobby's doing great work, okay? Idle Hour looks beautiful. He has the bar on Los Feliz, the Bigfoot, yeah.
Yeah, theme bars. So the notion of taking several old barrels that are meant to be a tavern, bit of programmatic architecture, that classic Southern California style, and polishing them up to a very fine sheen, and bringing in some kind of higher end liquor and food. It's lovely. It's a delightful thing that a programmatic structure can come back from the dead. These things are, in many cases, just falling down. People don't really understand what to do with them. Idle Hour is a special case because there's enough land there. It's not like the Tamale in East LA, which is just a tiny little shack. There's enough land there that they can run a restaurant and a bar and have a private event space in the back. So, all hail the Idle Hour.
Linseed oil as a finish is so underutilized in Los Angeles. It's so nice to see a nice.
Look like a ship.
Yeah. It's just, well, obviously there's varnish over there's obviously some sort of protectant over the linseed oil, but they really, I assume it's oak. The oak caskets have been properly stained and finished with linseed oil, and they look great and sealed. And so, good job.
And of course, shout out to Chris Nichols, because Chris is the one who spotted that the building was going up for a tax sale. It's a building that's been on his radar for a long, long time, and I'm sure he's just over the moon to see it come back.
Good. Okay, Kim, I'm going to let you bring us home. Your favorite building apparently is going to reopen in 3 years.
Yeah, boy, this was a nice piece of news.
3 years.
I don't care. 3 years, that's fine. The Chetrits are these hoarders of buildings. They own the whole world. They buy these wonderful historical structures and just let them sit and, in many cases, rot. In Los Angeles, in downtown Los Angeles, they've been hoarding 3 buildings, 2 of which seem to have some work going on in them. That would be Trinity Auditorium and, oh, honey, what's the other hotel?
The Clark.
Thank you. The Clark Hotel, not too far from Pershing Square. And the 3rd building in their triumvirate of great LA buildings that nothing really ever happens to is the most important and the saddest and the most tragic and the most upsetting. And that's why I was so happy to read the news that they had sold Giannini Place, a.k.a. the Bank of Italy, a.k.a. Bank of America building at the corner of 7th and Olive Street. I'm not, hugely excited about bank buildings as a rule, although it was a magnificent Morgan Walls and Morgan building when it went up. But 2 walls or 2 Morgans?
Morgan Walls and Morgan.
Thank you. Magnificent structure, wonderful corbelled ceilings, important building, fantastic exterior doors.
The interior was gutted by Ann Taylor in 1984, just so people don't get their hopes too up.
Actually, I don't know if you looked at the LA Times article. The corbels are still there.
I did. I look. The ceiling is intact. Yes. Okay.
I didn't realize the ceiling was intact.
And Ann Taylor's gutted everything else. They gutted the interior in 1984.
Okay, well, I don't believe Ann Taylor gutted the upstairs, but someone did. If you go into the Los Angeles Athletic Club, you can look straight through this building. There's nothing above the 2nd floor. So why do I care? Well, I care because in the mid-1920s through about 1931, Raymond Chandler was an oil company executive up on the top floor at the Dabney Oil Syndicate. And these giant, beautiful bronze and wood doors that are rotting on 7th Street, that stink of urine, that always have strange little holes. There are more holes every time we come by. It's like some kind of magical mechanical rats are digging away at them and taking pieces down into the sewers. I don't know what's going on. This building has been so mistreated. And it's been sold. And it's been sold to a development group that is serious about paying real money for these buildings and restoring them into high-end hotel properties. They're working on the Commercial Exchange building right now. They've got partnerships with several of the Ace properties. So Giannini Place, which I guess is its most recent name, Bank of Italy, I like to call it.
Giannini Place is the title given to the building for the HCM application from 1988.
Okay. It's going to come back. What that's going to look like is, of course, very much up to the developer because they have a clean slate on those upper floors. But to actually be able to walk into that lobby, to enter those elevators, to be under the ceiling that Raymond Chandler was under through all those really important years when he was getting his feet wet in Southern California politics and culture and crime. It's going to be a really wonderful experience to be able to physically go into that structure. That building has been closed since the early 1990s. And there's going to be a restaurant, and there's going to be a bar, and you know what that means? That means we're going to have a gimlet there, Richard, and I cannot wait.
Okay, Kim, thank you so much. You did it. We're done with the closely watched trains. I want to thank you for talking about Giannini Place. It's very exciting. It's a much neglected corner. Why don't we talk about upcoming events? We're taking it easy this year with a lot of lava events. We're taking it easy. We're having fewer. They're all good, but we're having fewer because I still have a lot of catch-up work on a lot of other projects. So we only have one upcoming event I want to talk about. That's Joan Job Smith's Sunday Lava Salon this coming Sunday, the 26th of April. That is at 2 p.m. This is the monthly Lava Salon. I will note immediately several things for people who've been regularly attending the salon. The venue has changed. It is Library Bar, 6th and Hope, across from the library. The time has changed. It starts at 2, not noon. 3, reservations are required. This is a free event, but we're really trying to keep a leg up on attendance. We really have there's a bar we have to meet with the management in terms of their liquor sales and food sales, because they open up early for us. So we like to keep track of who's coming because it helps us. So and also they fill up. So Kim, do you want to give? So Kim, I guess before we even talk about the content of Joan's talk, which is going to be about go-go girls, biker gangs from Orange County in the 1960s, and Charles Bukowski, do you want to give us a brief FAQ about the new lava salons?
Yeah, the most important thing that people need to know, and I bring this up just because we had people who were kind of clock watching a little bit at the last salon, and that's just not what we want. The reason that we're starting at 2, stretching it out to 4:30 now, we're making it 2 to 4:30 instead of 2 to 4, so people don't think, 4 o'clock, I'm out the door. And the reason we're not doing walking tours after is the most important thing for us with these salons is making it a congenial space for people who care about the city, the life of the word, the life of the mind, the life of books and culture, to be able to get together and actually meet and converse and interact with one another. And what we had found at our previous venue is that it just sort of became very much a show and tell without much give and take. We just want the salon to be a little more freeform, a little more casual, and a little more social. So what we're asking people to do is to just mark out their afternoon and come and be with the community. And I know most people understand that and are happy to do it, but I just don't want anyone to come in and be uncomfortable if it's 2 o'clock on the nose and, oh my gosh, I'm ready to start. Why isn't the talking starting?
Yeah, well, we're not going to start till 10 after 2.
Don't tell them when we're going to start, because then they're going to come in. Because I have to mark the names at the door. I want people to show up at 1:30, so don't say that.
So Joan's going to talk about Orange County biker gangs, the Hessian. She's going to talk about go-go dancing at the fort the night of the Watts riots. She's going to talk about several former husbands, some more notorious than others. She's going to talk about, God rest his soul, her beloved father, Avner, and my hero, Sheriff Peter Pitchess. It's going to be a great talk, and all of this is just a really long-winded way of saying, come and get a pint, listen to a totally right-on sister talk about some really interesting stuff.
Buy a copy of her memoir, get it signed. I mean, she's an amazing person, and this book has been many, many years coming, and Charles Bukowski encouraged her in its writing.
No, she mentored Charles Bukowski.
You say that, and she would laugh, but she did.
She is laughing because she's listening right now.
Yeah, well, she was his confidant through all of his really difficult relationships, because she was friends with all his girlfriends, and what you really want is a very smart woman you're not sleeping with to explain to you why these women are acting this way. So if you've read Charles Bukowski's poems and books about his relationships, you've definitely picked up some of the insights that he picked up from Joan. The book is very important. And can I just throw out the title that didn't get used?
Yeah.
The Crotch Watchers. I love to say that.
Okay, so it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Okay, so just come on down. We'll see you there. And I think we're gonna open the talk with Joan reading the opening stanzas of the Charles Bukowski poem "Burning of the Dream," which is, of course, about the burning, the arson fire at the Los Angeles Central Library. which is across the street from the Library Bar in the shadow. And so that'll just be our way of paying homage to Charles Bukowski, one of my other great heroes. So we're gonna move into the interviews. I'm gonna look at my piece of paper here. I'm gonna make the paper shuffling noise.
Foley.
We're gonna interview George Redfox and Ken Pratt. We're gonna interview Ken. We're gonna play Ken's interview first. So I'm gonna introduce George first. Okay, so. George Redfox. George Redfox is president of the Downey Conservancy. This will be the third podcast interview we've put up in the last couple of months with him. A couple of reasons for that, one of which is there's just, a whole lot to talk about in Downey. And it seemed about 2-3 months ago, there were a lot of preservation crises in Downey, and we wanted to get down and capture a lot of them. This is not one of the crises. This is about the former Harvey's Broiler on Firestone Boulevard at Old School River Road. This has now been reopened as the Bob's Big Boy in 2009. 2009, it got demolished and partial. Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great success story. It really is. It's so fantastic.
Well, if I may, I mean, it's a great success story about how people who care about buildings, who are just driving down the street, can stop an illegal demolition in its tracks and put enough pressure on everyone involved to make sure that a great building gets brought back as if it were never knocked down in the first place.
So we're gonna get we'll get the whole narrative of the preservation campaign from phone calls at 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning to the mayor of Downey to the reopening of the Bob's Big Boy. We're going to get a fair amount of history about a day in the life of Harvey's Broiler as part of the circuit, the cruising circuit in South Los Angeles. The circuit included places like the Clock, down the Witch Stand. Yeah, this is great stuff. I was really sad. I still cannot find anything. I mean, obviously I haven't done deep searches in libraries, but I really wished I could find just a clip of Tom Wolfe reading from The Hair Boys, which is his famous essay on Harvey's Broiler.
You don't like how I read it?
I love how you read it, but I just, all these years we've done, this is a location on one of my architecture tours, and I've just always wished I could just find a little something from Tom Wolfe on this essay.
I hope you can't. I love reading that piece.
I actually did find a piece, and it was taken down. I know, this broke my heart. Okay, so anyway, we'll interview George second. It's a great interview. Get down there. They're open 7 days a week, and the cruise night is Wednesday. I think we get into that. All right. Our first interview is with Ken Pratt. Ken Pratt is Director of Union Station Property Management. He's going to talk about a day in his life. Ken Pratt is totally amazing. He's such a great guy. He's, I don't know, Ken, I'll let you give a second on Ken, and then we'll just get into his interview, because he explains himself.
Well, what I'm going to say about Ken is that what a wonderful confluence it is that someone as extremely together and caring and passionate about Southern California architecture as Ken has the opportunity to work under an enlightened management situation where the money exists, that the intent exists, the passion for the place exists, and he's allowed to essentially use all of his talents to make this building survive for another 100+ years. It's really, wow, Metro is really getting behind Union Station. It's fantastic to see it, and it's great to see Ken given the rein that he needs to do this work. It's a lucky thing for all of Southern California that Union Station is in these hands.
Perfect. Thank you, Kim. Let's take it away with my interview with Ken. Ken, I'm here with you. We're in your office overlooking Union Station, and I need you to properly introduce yourself, and then we can get down to the work at hand here.
Okay. My name is Ken Pratt. I am the director of Los Angeles Union Station for Property Management, owned by Metro, the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Fumbled that.
Ken, that's fine.
That's live.
Ken, we're moving on. Ken, you're in charge of Union Station. You're going to give us a day in your life at the transit hub for Los Angeles County. But before you give us a day in your life, just give us 30 seconds on some figures for how many people, how many trains move through Union Station on a daily basis.
Okay. Counting in and out trains, there are 880 trains. There are approximately 1,800 buses that impact the property daily on Pratsaurus Bus Plaza and all the perimeter stops we have on the premises. Approximately 75,000 people a day transition through Los Angeles Transit here. And if you take a look at the rail lines in the 5 Southern California counties, and even spidering out beyond that, they all come to the center, which is Los Angeles Union Station. So we are the hub of the wheel. These are the spokes of rails that go out to all natures of lands in the United States. You know, from Chicago and New York to Ventura County and San Diego. They all come back to Los Angeles Union Station.
Perfect. Okay, we have done a number of podcasts about this station. We've talked to Stephen G. about the history. We've talked to Brian Kaiser about the tile. You were good enough to put him on to helping you guys with some tile, and he figured out they built the tile across the street, which is pretty exciting. We've talked to people about life before Union Station. I'm here today for you to tell us about a day in your life as the director of property management for Union Station. Okay? So take a deep breath and just take us down the path.
Well, let me first say that if you're familiar with the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, no, truly, I feel like Willy Wonka. I got the lucky golden ticket because I'm the guy that gets to come here and do all these things and bring this station back to a state of elegance that it once enjoyed and bring it to a state of good repair. I am a traveler on Metrolink and on Amtrak on a daily basis. I live down in Orange County, and I every day get on the rails and come up to Union Station. And frankly, I'm excited about it every day because I get to face issues and problems and bring this station back to life. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of architecture. I don't need to tell you all about that, and you and your podcasts have examined all that to the nth degree, I'm sure. But we were facing a situation where Metro had acquired the property, thankfully so, and essentially...
Could you give us a date on the acquisition? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah. That was April 11 of 2011. And from that point forward, Metro first had to get its arms around the property. This is different than any other property in the entire system of Metro. We may have thousands of properties and rights of way, etc., but this is unique. It's unique in the United States, as a matter of fact, but certainly to our holdings. And so it needed to be transferred and held and cared for differently. It's iconic. It's on the National Registry. We have to pay attention to the Secretary of Interior, to the LA Conservancy and the Los Angeles departments that have sway over our architecture and how we care for this place. And fortunately, we have a very happy relationship with all of them because Metro genuinely does care. And we're doing things on an everyday basis to restore the property. In this past year, we've restored the entire exterior paint system, replicating as close as we could the original colors. We did the largest metal restoration program in Los Angeles County history.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you.
You can see the copper and the brass differentiated. It's gorgeous.
And it hadn't been seen for 40 years, I'm sure. It was just jet black. As a matter of fact, a lot of people thought it was ironwork and not brass. So bringing it back to its brilliance and state of luster, and then coating it so it won't tarnish in such a rate. And then we also instilled an annual restoration program so that it won't deteriorate any further. Beyond that, all the woodwork's been restored. The leather seating in the chairs, everything has been brought back to a luster. We've gone ahead and done a historic structures report and also a landscape report that created our Bible. It's, I think, 400 and some pages, almost 500 pages long, so that now we have something to measure ourselves against and to adhere to and care for this property. Metro's done marvelous things. They have the leadership and the CEO, Art Leahy, and the board of directors has just been unbelievably good and positive. They've seen to it that we've had support and funding, and that the projects have moved forward with alacrity. And that's where I say I'm Willy Wonka. I got that lucky golden ticket to go out there and do these things. So my day starts with arriving at the station on a Metrolink at about 8 in the morning. And the first thing I do is take a look at the property itself. I take a stroll about the property to take a general feel of things and see what's going on, saying hello to people.
Marco Ramirez being one of those people?
Marco Ramirez being one of those people. You cannot walk through the property without saying hello to Marco. He is a jewel. We're very happy to have Marco. And the best shoe shine stand available in Los Angeles. Beyond that, we're bringing additional things. We brought T&Y Bakery in. We have other entities that are coming in. Press Brothers Juicery will open on Monday here, Monday the 16th. You've got T&Y Bakery as well, who also have a wonderful store out at the original Farmers Market. We're bringing in the Barista Society. They're opening this coming month in the East Portal as well. We're bringing in Odo Odo, which is a bento box to go for fast food, but quality stuff. We're also opening up with Green Bowl to go, which is salads and wraps. The Crepe Cafe or Cafe Crepe from Toronto and Vancouver are opening here in June with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We always have our fine dining tracks, immeasurable against tracks. It's a wonderful experience, and people from far and wide come to enjoy that cuisine. Come a year from now, Sed Moses and Eric Needleman will open up in the Fred Harvey with an American brew pub and the restoration of the Fred Harvey. We're bringing in
the Fred Harvey house. No, just give us 30 more seconds on what this almost freestanding structure from the Union Station is, in case people just don't off the top know.
Pardon me. Fred Harvey was an entrepreneurial fellow in the late 1800s or so, and saw that you were at the tender mercies of wherever you landed on a long train ride as to what was available in food. And he saw that there was an opportunity to establish restaurants and standardize on the food and service. So he started in Kansas City with his first restaurant, and educated the Harvey girls on how to serve and what to serve, and the restaurants grew along the rail lines. The last one here in Los Angeles in 1939. And the restaurant was giant. It's almost 11,000 square feet.
This is a huge space, almost 2 stories in height in the main hallway.
That's correct. And the kitchen is a full 4,000 square feet. Giant kitchen. Well, the purpose was you not only were serving meals here in the dining room, but they were also servicing the long-range trains.
Right.
So they were catering to the trains in and out here. And so that dictated that. Now, the last day that restaurant was open for business was 1967. Hasn't been open since. We've used it for events and leasing out for hall events, et cetera, et cetera. But it's been mothballed for the most part, and it's a very period restaurant. Now, with Eric and Sed, they're bringing back the restoration of that restaurant, and including with that is an American brew pub atmosphere. They're wonderful restaurateurs and own some of the most successful bars in the United States, and have been voted Bar of the Year more than one of their bars, more than one occasion. So that's going to bring an element of nightlife to the Union Station that's been lacking for some time. And then you also have to take a look at all the programming we're doing. We've had live opera here. We have live music many times each month now. It's growing in its popularity and its scope. We have other live art events. We're having exhibits come through. We're putting on film screenings. There's a film screening that just was held of Chinatown. Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz was held here as a celebration of its release in 1939 as well, just a few weeks ago. So many, many more eclectic and interesting things are coming to the station to draw people to it. Union Station isn't just a place to pass through. It's a place to come to be and enjoy. It's a destination.
I believe you. We haven't even gotten to your office yet. We don't need too many more details, but you've just said hello to Marco. You've walked past Harvey House. Give us just. I mean, I know you have a billion different meetings on different days. What is your day? Give us just some sense of your.
As an example, this morning I had two meetings go off right away for the purpose of taking a look at where we want to go with some retail marketing units in the station that will augment what we're doing. Those will be artists and artisan pop-up kind of situations, or more appropriately kiosks that will be dotted through the station in a walking environment. So we're planning forward to that. But also, who's it going to be? No, it's not going to be T-shirts and cell phone covers and trinkets. These are going to be artistic and artisan effects that will be available, and interesting things that will imbue you with a history of the station and the surroundings. Beyond that, then we also went through a furniture selection process for additional furnishings on the exterior of the station. We want to bring some things like there'll be alfresco dining for Cafe Crepe. We wanted to make sure that was going to be in concert with the architecture, and happily that it is. And so that was another type of a meeting. A third meeting was held briefly because coming in the next couple of weeks, you'll see scaffolding going up around the historic building of the property, and that scaffolding is going to be for the roof replacement program. We believe me, that is a huge undertaking, and we've studied that and engineered it, and had our architectural historian on it every day.
Your architectural, we met. I forgot his name. Remind us of his name.
Christopher Smith, ARG, out of Pasadena.
Very nice guy.
Oh, terrific, and has a passion for this place. I call him the hawk.
Yeah.
He sits on my shoulder like a hawk, and if I start to go astray, I feel those talons. So the historic roof will be replaced. So we had a meeting relative to some of the details on that, and during that roof replacement, we will be installing, for the first time, an HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. Yeah. And it'll be underneath the roof line, so it will not be obstructive or interruptive to the architecture whatsoever. Those are very, very important things that we have to take the care and feeding of this building on. And it'll make that property much more functional for the general public. Pardon me, my nose is stuffy.
Okay, I think we're in the home stretch here. Okay. Why don't I'd like to ask you about the ticket hall. Okay. Because that's sure. That's a space that's up and coming, very much up and coming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and let's just do the ticket hall. And is there anything else you want to sort of? We're great. There's nothing. Okay. All right. So.
Wrap it up with you just heading home.
Yeah. Okay. Just get on the train home.
Okay. Okay. So Ken, so let's. So that I feel we have a good sense of your day. I'm looking forward to hearing about your ride home, but in a minute or two. The last thing I want you to talk to us about, the ticket hall. The ticket hall is one of these great spaces that you're about to. Yeah. So start. Go.
People all over the world recognize the visuals of the ticket hall from the many commercials and the many feature films that are shot there, and it's just amazing how many people come and say, "Oh, I recognize this," and it is a grand place. It's just wonderful. we're envisioning many things, potentials for the ticket hall. And we're talking to a variety of interesting people who have artful ideas that we're exploring. There's a possibility for a what we call an exhibition restaurant in a portion of the ticket hall. And we're kind of probing the possibilities of that conversationally. But additionally, we want to maintain the ticket hall as open space for use as, for many of the wonderful events. The Los Angeles Conservancy had its formal dinner there this past fall. And if you could have seen that, it was just absolutely superb, elegance at its best. Showing off the hall and is a black tie type of event, and we want those type of things to flourish. We also want it to be used for, as I say, some of the film premieres and film events that go on during the course of the year. So it has to have a flexibility about it as well as a restaurant venue. And if that comes to pass, you can see we'd have tracks, our American cuisine fine dining. We have Cafe Crepe for the mid-price point casual dining and al fresco. And then you have the American Brew Pub for the after hours and appetizers, and possibly, let's say, Asian fusion or something like that in some aspect of the ticket concourse with appropriate kiosks. So all of that is stuff, food for thought, food for fantasy, that we deal with on a daily basis, and we're making it come to pass, along with, as I say, all the musicals and the exhibits that we're working on a daily basis. So that kind of gets me in and out of my office on a very frequent basis here. I think I'm out of my chair more than I'm in my chair, actually.
That's good. That's good.
It is. It's a fun aspect of this place, is it's alive and it keeps me going in very many ways. And then by the end of the day, I wind down, and then I realize that, I got to head for the Amtrak and the 510.
Yep.
So I jump on the 510 South, and I typically meet a bunch of fellow travelers in the cafe car. I have my Diet Pepsi, and we talk about our day. It's a wonderful way to travel, and it's just a sensational place to come to every day.
Ken, you did it. I want to thank you for everything.
Oh, you're most welcome, Richard. I'm happy to have you here.
My name is Irving Granis. I'm here in the back room warehouse of the Angel City Brewery in the Los Angeles Arts District, and you're listening to You Can't Eat the Sunshine.
George, I'm here with you. We're at Firestone Boulevard and Old River School Road. We are at Bob's Big Boy, formerly Harvey's Broiler, and I need you to properly introduce yourself. And we're gonna jump in to the history of this important landmark in Downey, California.
Hi, my name's George Redfox. I'm from the Downey Conservancy. I'm the president of that corporation, and I'm also from the Downey Historical Society. I'm a member over there too.
All right, perfect. Okay. Bob's Big Boy, formerly Harvey's Broiler. As we agreed, you're going to take us back to 2007, 2009. 2006, yeah. 2006, Demolition Day. Okay? So set the stage. It's 2006. What's happening here?
Okay, so for me, with the demolition of the Bob's Broiler here, the way it happened in my situation,
and that's what we're interested in. Your story.
My story. So basically, I'm a teacher here in town, and one of my students actually came to me before the demolition happened, which was the Friday before it happened, before that fateful Sunday, I guess you could say. And my student came by, and she's like, "Hey, Mr. Redfox, why are all the cars pulled off the used car lot at Johnny's Broiler down there?" And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that. And I came over after school, and I remember parking right here where all these other cars are now. And I looked in here, and there was no one here. Just one guy inside and no cars on the lot. I was thinking, what's going on over here? So I called City Hall, and they said there's no demolition permits that had been issued for that property.
Right.
And I said, okay, just wondering what was going on, because there's no cars on the lot. And sure enough, on that Sunday, we had the illegal demolition happen right around 3:30 in the afternoon. So that was 2 days after that Friday that I had heard about the cars being pulled off the lot. I happened to be eating at the Elephant Bar in La Mirada. I got a call from Downey Conservancy, yeah. And I called one of the council members here in town and told him what was happening. In short, there was, like I said, no demolition permits. The cops were called, and when the cops got here to the location here at Bob's, basically the people who were doing the demolition, they got off the tractors and ran.
Wow.
And yeah, I got here probably roughly 45 minutes to an hour after the call that I got, and the place was in shambles.
So what was left? What was standing when you got here?
Most of the Firestone side dining room was still left. The canopy was still left here out on that we're standing under now. The signage was still left. The rock wall was still left up at the dining room on Firestone. And but a lot of it had been demolished, which was the sad part about it. Just seeing the whole thing caved in. And it was really painful that night, actually, to look at that. And we never thought it would be rebuilt, but as I'm standing here now at Bob's Broiler, it's spectacular.
Okay, let's take it. You're doing well. Let's take a breath. Good. Okay, part one done. Okay, as agreed, you're going to take us back. You're going to give us through your father's reminiscences. Because you were not here in 1965. You were not. But your father was.
He was here in
full.
58.
Okay.
59.
Okay, so we're gonna do a day in the night, 1958, just to prime the pump here. Friday night at Harvey's Broiler in Downey, which is well documented in the Tom Wolfe essay, The Hair Boys, in the collection of essays called The Pump House Gang. Well documented. 4,000 cars a night. Just so everyone starts to get a sense of what you're about to describe to us. 4,000 cars a night are coming into this place, and as you're about to tell us, we're surrounded by some really nice muscle cars. I'm looking at this Camaro, this turbocharged. It's a nice car. Okay, all right, 1958, Friday night, your dad's here, take it away.
Okay, so we're going to flash back now to 1958. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what my dad has told me about the old Harvey's Broiler. Roughly 4,000 cars per night would come through this location. That's unbelievable in my... I can't believe that.
I believe I've been told there was a line half a mile long to get into the parking lot.
My dad told me right here on Firestone that he would wait on Firestone Boulevard. There would be traffic cops directing traffic in and out of Bob's here, or Harvey's at that time. And at one time he actually told me that they put a 15-minute limit on the car hop service here. So you had 15 minutes to get your food needed, and then you had to leave because there was so many cars waiting to get into the Harvey's Broiler. So yeah, he cruised this place in 58. His name's George Redfox. It's my dad. He had a 57 Chevy, and I know he cruised that through here, and yeah, he had a good time. I know him and his friends would come through here. My mom would cruise through here too. She lived in Southgate area, and I know that she would cruise over here. And they also used to hit up the Witch Stand, but they would also come to Harvey's.
And the Witch Stand was in Long Beach?
No, the Witch Stand I believe is over in it was close to Inglewood area somewhere.
Right. And yes, that's right. And then there was also the Clock, which is an Imperial in Florence.
My dad used to cruise the Clock, so he would go to the Clock. He would go to Harvey's here. I don't know if he ever went to the Witch Stand. My mom would do the Witch Stand, and she would go to Tiny Nailers, I think in Hollywood.
Tiny Nailers, Sunset, and La Cienega now long gone, but Tiny Nailers was, a mecca for Los Angeles. Okay, perfect. So I think that's good. 1958, day in the... Oh, we can hear the engines revving. As they're revving. All right, 1958, Night in the Life is done. We're done with that. Let's get to the Louders. The Louders stepping in. The place is demolished. A little bit of it standing. Plans exist. Los Angeles Conservancy is on board. Downey Conservancy is on board. The emotional half-acre of Downey wants this back. Take it from there.
Okay, so Jim Lauder came to the rescue of Bob's Big Boy here. I guess he's a franchisee, so he came in here to the Downey location, said he'd be interested in rebuilding Bob's.
Rebuilding Harvey's as
Bob's Big Boy, which he did, obviously, because we're standing here right now. I guess their vision as far as his vision, LA Conservancy, at that time I wasn't Downey Conservancy, we were Downey Historical Society. All of us, our vision was to rebuild it as close to the original plan of 1958 from Paul Clayton's designs. So they came in, Bob's worked with the city of Downey. Thankfully, we got everything rebuilt. They used the 1958 plans. They reused pretty much all of the rock and stuff that had been demolished and stuff. They pulled it all out of the rubble. Anything that they could reuse, they reused it. Put it back into the building. Built up, I guess you could say, the canopies again, the dining rooms. They had car hop service in here, and they still have car hop service selectively, so that's a good thing.
Is it Wednesday nights? Oh, tonight's Wednesday.
Tonight's Wednesday. I'm not sure if they're running car hop, but I know that they ran it in the summertime here, so it was kind of cool to come here and get your car hop service in the summer. And he's done a great job with it. Jim is a great guy. Really likes to work with the people of the community. Works with a lot of community service groups. Always is willing to help out around town and stuff like that. So I can't give him enough credit for what he's done with this great broiler that he's got. Bob's Big Boy's the best.
Perfect. Before we go, you did it. Good. Before you go, do you want to give us a particular memory you have of this place, and if you do, which is good, and maybe also just it's been several. It's had 3 names. If you could just quickly, before you get into a personal anecdote, walk us through the 3 names this establishment has had, just for the record.
Okay, so the 3 names that Harvey's Broiler, I should say, Harvey's Broiler, Johnny's Broiler, and Bob's Big Boy Broiler. Those are the 3 names. So it's gone through 3 different transformations over the years.
And we started this narrative with it as a used car dealership. So quickly, if you could just give us a minute on how it went from being a lively drive-in to a used car dealership. I think that would help us understand give us a little more breadth to the narrative.
Okay, so this, as you had just said, it was a car dealership for roughly probably 3 years or so. They had just decided they didn't want to have Johnny's Broiler open anymore, and they decided it would be a good idea just to turn it into a used car lot. So that's exactly what they did. They had cars parked all over the place. They had come in and demoed a lot of the interior stuff out of it, so it lost a lot of that original charm, unfortunately. But yeah, the used car lot was kind of just an in-between, I guess you could say, saga of the building here. It wasn't a good part of the history of it.
Okay, good, perfect. Just thank you for filling in those blank spots. All right, personal anecdote, and then we're gonna wrap this up.
Okay, so I'm actually a kid of the '80s. So I grew up in the '80s. I graduated from high school, Downey High School, 1986. As a kid, I remember coming here to Johnny's Broiler at that time with my friends. There was not really much going on here at that time. It was fairly dead unless you came here on a cruise night. There was no car hop service at the time. But I remember coming here with my friends, and we would get burgers, and we would sit in our car and eat them under the canopies here just because we'd think it was cool just to sit under the canopies. We'd be the only ones here. But we would be here eating our food under the canopies right out front. So that's kind of a personal memory that I have the Broiler here. I've always loved it ever since I was a kid. I remember as a little kid, my grandma and grandpa lived in Southgate. And I remember driving home with my mom and dad from Southgate up Firestone Boulevard. And my mom would always tell me as a little kid, Johnny's is coming up, Johnny's is coming up. You gotta be looking for Johnny's. And I'd always be looking for Johnny's because I loved the dancing lights and I loved the neon and I loved all the shininess, I guess you could say, of the building. It was just fantastic. So
Perfect.
Great fun times.
Perfect. You did it. You've done a wonderful job. Remind us about Downey Conservancy and Downey Historical, and we're going to have you sign off.
Okay. Once again, my name's George Redfox. I'm from the Downey Conservancy and also from the Downey Historical Society. You can follow us online on Facebook. We are also on online at thedowneyconservancy.org and downeyhistoricalsociety.org.
Perfect. And you have a pretty active Flickr page for Downey Conservancy.
We do. We have a Flickr page, which lots of people are visiting. We got lots of people on Facebook now. We're getting a lot of interest in it. So it's pretty good. Join us on there. We'd be happy to, keep you up to date on Downey history.
George, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Jean Bruce Poole, and I'm in Pasadena. And you're listening to You Can't Eat the Sunshine.
And we're done. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to our latest podcast of You Can't Eat the Sunshine for the week of April 20th, 2015. Our guests this week were George Redfox. He is president of the Downey Conservancy, a member of the Downey Historical Society, and he's talked to us about the former Harvey's Broiler, now the Bob's Big Boy, on Firestone Boulevard in Downey. We also talked with Ken Pratt, director of Union Station Property Management, about a day in his life managing the station. We want to hear from you. Emails, social media, call-outs, all of this is great. Kim, tell us how we can get into the feedback loop.
Rent a blimp. You can put a message on the side of the blimp. It's in LED lights. You can type anything you want. I think they actually have some restrictions on what you can type, but almost anything you want, so you could send us a message that way. Alternately, wouldn't that be great if you looked out the window and there was a blimp and it said, Kim and Richard, you guys need to say less. You can send us an email.
I don't think you say too much. I think everyone says sometimes, Kim. All right, you're not really stumbling for words. Usually people say when they're a little anxious and not sure where to go, and that's not the case with you.
No, I'm blathering preservation ire. God damn those Chetrons. I can't believe they sat on that building for so long. And you know who's going to have to bump up their game? The Los Angeles Athletic Club across the street. That's not the point, though. You want to email us? We'd love to hear from you. You can eat the sunshine at gmail.com. It's the dedicated email. Or you can go through the contact link at www.esotouric.com. You can join us on an Esotouric bus adventure. We're not just podcasters, we lead tours for a living, and we go out almost every weekend. We'd love to see you as a podcast listener check in and say, hey, I really like that interview with Ken Pratt, for instance. You can also, of course, join us at Lava events, such as the Lava Sunday Salon with Joan Job Smith, or if you look ahead on the calendar, you'll see that we do forensic science seminars. The next one's coming up in August. So come out, let us know you're listening. It's always a pleasure to meet podcast listeners and put your face in our minds.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, so we're in the home stretch here. This is when you call out some upcoming bus tours, and we bring it on home. So take it away.
That's my job. Well, we've got one more crime bus tour for the month of April, and that would be Echo Park Book of the Dead. It's a new tour, and I've only given it once before, and I'm already adding new crime facts, because LAPL expanded their database holdings. Thank you, librarians! More databases. Scan everything. So Echo Park Book of the Dead is a tour about some really offbeat crimes, in those streetcar suburbs of Echo Park, Silver Lake, Elysian Park. We'll take you to some really lovely places, including Sister Amy Semple McPherson's House Museum, the Parsonage, where you will see the most beautiful bathroom in Southern California. So that's April 25th. Then we get into a little literary tour kick. We're doing Charles Bukowski's Haunts of a Dirty Old Man on May the 2nd, and that tour is, of course, the perfect thing to do right after you hear Joan Jub Smith and read her memoir, and then you can go.
That's why I did it.
That's why you did it. Good thinking there, Richard.
I try, Kim.
It's a tour about finding the voice within you that is great, with the young Bukowski in downtown, some of the locations featured in his poems and in his fiction, and places where he lived and worked and loved and got into terrible fights. And no, we're not taking you in any bars. Bukowski bars are few and far between, but we will take you to Pink Elephant Liquor, and we'll feed you donuts and coffee right on the sidewalk out in front. And if you want to get something a little stronger, we're not your mother. That's a really nice tour, and it's always really cool to let Bukowski people to get together because they tend to connect in a very profound and sweet way. On May the 9th, it's Raymond Chandler's Los Angeles, and I imagine we're going to have maybe 8 or 9 tours before we can actually point to the Giannini Place building or the corner of 7th and Olive.
It's going to take 3 years before that building's open. I'm sorry. They're saying 18 months, and I would just double that, and that's an optimistic estimate.
Well, all I'm saying is,
At
some point in the distant future, that's probably going to be a place that we can go and breathe that rarefied Chandler air. But it's not like we lack for Chandler locations in downtown and Hollywood. And this is a tour following in the footsteps of the young Chandler, the oil company executive, and would-be writer of comic operettas. That's my exclusive discovery.
I'm going to interrupt you. That would be like, wow, we will have, if they open in 3 years, which is an optimistic estimate, we will have been giving the Chandler tour for 11 years.
Yeah, and he's still alive, and he's still here. I would love you to get on that bus. Don't wait 3 years to get on that bus, because there's a lot to see. And Chandler people, like Bukowski people, really connect in profound and beautiful ways. We have a once-in-a-year bus adventure coming up on May 16th. This is so special. I'm sounding the klaxon. Do you hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Tom Waits Tour, subtitled Crawlin' Down Cahuenga. Tom Waits Los Angeles, hosted by David Smay, who's done a couple of music anthologies with me. The Bubblegum Music is the Naked Truth book, probably being the best known, and also Lost in the Grooves. And he, like me, had the opportunity to write a book in the 33 1/3 series for Continuum, now Bloomsbury, little books about great albums. My book is about a band called Neutral Milk Hotel, which some of you were like, oh my God, I didn't know you wrote that, and others are like, that's a band. David's book is about Tom Waits' album Swordfish Trombones. And Swordfish Trombones is the perfect Tom Waits album to write about and to write a bus tour about, because this is the pivotal transitional record where instead of being this kind of semi-beatnik, retro singer-songwriter on the dark side of Southern California, getting into all kinds of trouble and jumping from woman to woman, he connects with one really brilliant woman who grows him up, teaches him how to look at great art and listen to brush his teeth and listen to some real experimental music from the 1920s and change his life and change his art. And Swordfish Trombones is the album where all of that happens. And so we go out in search of the young, transformative Tom Waits, including a stop at Zoetrope Studios, which is where he was working when he made that album, and where I was an early teenage intern and had a very memorable experience with Mr. Waits. And also we go to the Alley in Echo Park, where his really wonderful Haskell Wexler directed music video for In the Neighborhood was filmed, and it looks like it's a street in Cuba, but it's actually a little corner in Echo Park. And we also go to places that aren't there anymore but have a lot of resonance, like the Old Motel. Well, get on the bus. You'll hear all about it. It's a great tour, and if you like Tom Waits or you have friends who like Tom Waits, let them know, because it only comes around once a year, and I don't want to be getting these emails from you like on May the 18th going, hey, can I get on that Tom Waits tour? You're going to have to wait. Could be as much as 14 months. So spread the word. Then we're back on the crime bus, May the 30th. It's Eastside Babylon, my most unhinged crime bus tour. Dark, dark, dark stories, beautiful locations. And speaking of programmatic architecture, as we were at the top of the hour, it's like we're on radio, we're going to be going to the Tamale over on Whittier Boulevard, which is our favorite endangered programmatic structure in Southern California. And lots of good murder scenes. You'll love that tour. Blood and Dumplings, a very occasional crime bus tour, comes around in June the 20th, and that is a San Gabriel Valley crime tour that includes a dumpling picnic and a garden of sea monsters. You won't get that on anyone else's crime bus tour. And we have some treats related to murder, lions, Nazis, Phil Spector. It's an awfully good tour. We should give it more often. Weird West...
We're giving it twice this year.
Twice this year, that's good. Weird West Adams rolls around on June the 27th. That's a tour about not just crime in a very interesting and underappreciated neighborhood, but also social justice and racial housing covenants being broken nationally because of the work done right here in Los Angeles. I love that tour. Pasadena Confidential with Crimebo the Clown comes around on July the 11th. That's a tour about all the good things in Pasadena. Black magic, rocket science, suicidal bridge jumpers, Rose Queens, would-be presidential assassins. Good stuff.
And he's...
Who's...
He
wasn't president.
Would-be president.
Well, RFK wasn't president.
But Sirhan killed him.
Right, but RFK would have been president if he'd won.
Okay.
You see what I mean with it? Yeah, all right, anyway.
Okay.
Our most popular crime bus tour comes around on July the 18th.
You make it sound like Sirhan didn't do it anyway.
Some people think he didn't.
Okay, he did it, Kim.
Yeah, all right. Real Black Dahlia is on July the 18th. That's our most popular crime bus tour where we follow in the footsteps of Elizabeth Short, the victim in the still notorious, unsolved 1947 Black Dahlia murder. And really, we don't talk about all these crazy whodunit theories because... honestly, none of them are that convincing. But we do try to get to know her, and we follow in her footsteps, and we look at the police investigation, and we look at the incredible narrative of what the press in Los Angeles was doing. It was the heyday of the yellow journalism and of very strange connections between the media and the police. And they basically collaborated on the investigation into her death. It's a fascinating story, and a lot of people were left in the dust with that. And finally, wrapping it up, July the 25th, we come up again to the Bukowski Tour. So if you can't make it on May 2nd, maybe you can on July 25th. That's our upcoming tours, and we'd love to see you on the bus. Tom Waits, May 16th.
Okay, Kim, thank you so much for bringing us home. That was very nice. I threw in a couple more tours than I usually do just to really...
I know, I'm out of breath.
Exactly. So take a deep breath because... Here we go. We want to thank everyone for listening. We want to continue. We hope you continue to listen. And I want to remind you.
You can't eat the sunshine.
You can't eat the sunshine, but you can make a beeline for the best of the coastline. La 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 la. Skid Row, Solano Canyon, the Doria, and Pico Union, the long-lost neighborhood called Hermina between